The headlines are screaming. Canada has just torpedoed its century-old military alliance with the United States, and Donald Trump is furious. You're seeing a picture of a continent split in two, a partnership in shambles, and a northern border left wide open. But what if the story you're being told isn't the real story? The truth is a whole lot more complex. It has less to do with a broken pact, and everything to do with a new Canadian Prime Minister, a multi-billion-dollar defense overhaul, and a strategic pivot so profound it's set to redefine North American security for the next century. This isn't a breakup. This is a high-stakes renegotiation of power, playing out in the face of a simmering trade war and the icy backdrop of the Arctic. And we're going to show you how it's all unfolding. To get the sheer gravity of headlines claiming the US-Canada military pact is broken, you first have to understand what that pact really is. We're not just talking about a friendly handshake between neighbors. We're talking about NORAD, the North American Aerospace Defense Command, a deeply integrated 67-year-old defense shield. Forged in the Cold War, NORAD is the reason the continent has been guarded from airborne threats for generations. Its roots stretch back even further, to the Ogdensburg Agreement in 1940, a deal made under the shadow of World War II that tied the two nations' defense fates together. For decades, the relationship was pretty straightforward. The United States, with its colossal military-industrial complex, was the senior partner. Canada was the trusted deputy, offering up its critical geography and unwavering support. Think of the old NORAD as a fortress wall built to stop a battering ram. The Soviet bombers everyone feared would one day thunder over the North Pole. Canadian territory was the essential tripwire. To this day, American and Canadian officers sit shoulder to shoulder in a mountain bunker in Colorado, sharing intel and making joint decisions. You just don't see this level of integration anywhere else in the world. It's why the idea of a break seems so earth-shattering. The entire defense of the continent is built on the idea that this alliance is unbreakable. But starting in 2026, the terms of that alliance began to fundamentally change. The first real tremor didn't come from a missile, but from a major political shift in Canada. The Royal Canadian Air Force has been flying fighter jets that are over 40 years old. Their CF-18s are genuine antiques in aviation terms. So after years of debate, Ottawa chose a replacement in 2022, the American F-35 Lightning II, the most advanced fighter jet in the world. The plan was to buy 88 of them in a landmark $19 billion deal, locking Canada into the American military ecosystem for decades. The first jets were slated for delivery in 2026. But then, the political landscape shifted. With Donald Trump back in the White House and a trade war heating up, Canada elected a new Prime Minister, Mark Carney. And he had a different vision. Trump's rhetoric was escalating, painting Canada not as a partner, but as an economic freeloader. In response, Carney gave speeches in Munich and Davos that openly criticized Trump's America First approach and signaled a new direction. His government declared that the old integration-based relationship is over, and that Canada's national strategy was shifting from reliance to resilience. This wasn't just talk. Carney's government championed a new Buy Canadian policy for its military and announced a colossal defense plan worth over $366 billion in US dollars. While the F-35 deal is still on the books, this new strategy is all about reducing Canada's total dependence on American military hardware. Ottawa began deepening its ties with European partners, even joining the EU's military mobility project, SAFE, to make it easier to cooperate with NATO allies across the Atlantic. The message to Washington was crystal clear. Military cooperation can no longer be taken for granted if economic respect isn't part of the deal. So, what about that furious response from the Trump administration? It didn't come as a single explosive event. It's been more of a cold, calculated pressure campaign. The American argument boils down to one critical word: interoperability. The F-35 isn't just a plane, it's a flying, stealthy data hub. It's built to seamlessly share enormous amounts of targeting information with other F-35s, U.S. warships, satellites, and command centers. From the Pentagon's point of view, having Canada diversify its military purchases is like trying to run a tech giant with one team on Apple's ecosystem and another on a totally different operating system. It might work, but it creates friction and potential security gaps. Washington's pushback comes in the form of constant economic and political pressure, a strategy to make it clear that the F-35 is a test of loyalty. The jet is no longer just a piece of hardware, it's being framed as a symbol of Canada's full commitment to the alliance, on American terms. For Canada, however, that's exactly the problem. The new government in Ottawa is no longer willing to have its commitment questioned or its sovereignty undermined by economic threats. So this is about way more than just engines and price tags. It's about who sets the terms for the defense of an entire continent. If you're finding this breakdown of geopolitics valuable, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss what's coming next. So why is there so much tension? What's the real story behind the headlines? The answer lies far to the north, in the vast, frozen Canadian Arctic, and in a new generation of threats that NORAD's old wall was never built to stop. The threat isn't lumbering bombers anymore. It's swarms of hypersonic missiles and advanced cruise missiles, weapons that fly at unbelievable speeds, hug the ground, and dodge traditional radar. The old NORAD was a wall built to stop a battering ram. The new system needs to be a web that can catch a swarm of hypersonic bees. And here's the twist. Far from breaking the Pact, Canada is actually doubling down on it. In 2022, the government announced a massive, nearly $40 billion investment over 2 decades just to modernize its part of NORAD. Then, in 2026, Prime Minister Carney's government unveiled its broader national defense plan, valued at over $366 billion in US dollars. This plan includes new over-the-horizon radars, space-based surveillance, and a network of sensors across the Arctic, all set to come online through the 2030s. This colossal investment proves the alliance isn't dead, it's evolving. But Canada is making it clear this investment comes with new terms. Ottawa knows that a modern missile shield for North America is physically and strategically impossible without Canadian territory. The Arctic is the front line for any missile coming over the pole. The U.S. needs Canadian geography and Canadian partnership, and Ottawa is finally using that leverage. After years of staying on the sidelines, Canada has already lifted its official policy against participating in ballistic missile defense, opening the door for deeper integration on its own terms. This massive new defense spending is Canada's ace in the hole. It's the ultimate bargaining chip to ensure its role in North American defense is one of a sovereign partner, not a subordinate. This brings all the puzzle pieces together. The fighter jets, the trade wars, and the massive defense spending aren't separate issues. They are all battlefronts in a fundamental renegotiation of the U.S.-Canada relationship. The key moment was the shift in Canadian leadership under Prime Minister Mark Carney in 2026. Facing down Trump's threats of crippling tariffs, Carney's government didn't just cave, it countered. It promised a step change in defense investment, with the goal of finally hitting the 2% NATO spending target that Washington has demanded for years. But this promise wasn't a blank check. It was implicitly tied to a demand for tariff relief and renewed economic respect. The era of Canada quietly falling in line was over. This is the why now. We are watching Canada weaponize its own strategic importance. The diversification of military supplies isn't just about jets. It's a tool to force concessions on trade. The massive NORAD investment isn't just about defense. It's Canada's leverage to ensure any new system is a true partnership, not just an American project on Canadian soil. To reduce its dependency, Canada is now actively pursuing deeper military and industrial ties with European and Asian partners. It's a declaration of strategic independence, a profound change for a country so long seen as America's quiet, reliable neighbor. So, has Canada really broken its military pact with the US? The answer is a clear and simple no. The headlines were just sensationalism. The NORAD alliance isn't broken. Both countries are pouring billions into modernizing it for a new era of threats. Geography and shared interests make the partnership permanent. A missile heading for Chicago still flies over Canada first, and no political spat can change that. But the terms of that partnership are being rewritten right before our eyes. The old dynamic of a senior and junior partner is finished. What's emerging from this tension will define North American security for the 21st century. The most likely outcome is the birth of a new reality, a more assertive and independent Canada. By leveraging its vital role in continental defense, Ottawa is successfully carving out a new position. It will remain America's most important ally, but as a partner that has its own industrial base, diverse military relationships, and the sovereign right to make its own decisions without facing economic bullying. However, this path isn't without risk. If the constant economic friction between the two administrations sours the relationship, it could create genuine mistrust. A lack of trust, even with all the right hardware, could create dangerous vulnerabilities in the shield over North America, the kind of gaps that adversaries are always hoping to find. Those screaming headlines about a broken alliance? They completely missed the real story. The truth isn't some dramatic breakup. It's a quiet, intensely strategic renegotiation happening in the halls of power and in the skies over the Arctic. This isn't really about Donald Trump's temper or a single fighter jet deal. It's about Canada rediscovering the immense power of its own geography and its role as the gatekeeper of the continent. It's leveraging that power to demand a new relationship, one built on resilience, not reliance. The pact isn't broken, but it will never be the same. The quiet partner to the north has finally found its voice, and the very foundation of North American defense is shifting because of it. But as Canada stands on its own 2 feet, is it building a stronger, more resilient continental defense? Or is it opening a dangerous crack in the shield that has protected us all for over 60 years? Let us know what you think in the comments below.